Hey there, this is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and Pelling Innovations. And in this video, I'm going to show you how your foot position affects your ability to move both on and off the bike. Specifically looking at how being on the ball of your foot versus having a midfoot or balanced foot position affects your ability to squat and hinge and create the movement patterns that you need to move in a balanced way on your bike. Now, I'm shooting this video because there was a recent post from a skills coach who claimed that at one of his camps he noticed that a rider who was using a midfoot position was having trouble hinging and moving and pumping properly on his bike. And so he said that by moving him to the foot, the ball of his foot, that it allowed him to hinge and move better. And he claimed that this proved that the ball of the foot position improved your ability to hinge and move on the bike, and that being in a midfoot position made it harder for you to move on a bike. And unfortunately, this is not only not true, but it's actually kind of dangerous advice to give to people, because there's a difference between authentic balanced movement and a compensation pattern. And so what's happened here is that a compensation pattern that looks like a hinge happens when you push someone into an unbalanced foot position, but that's not the same thing as helping someone move in a more balanced way on the bike. So real quick, let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. So when we're talking about a hinging pattern, what we're talking about is the ability to push the butt back behind the heels and let the chest come down towards the ground. And this is also what would be known as the attack position on the bike in some circles. So as you can see, I have a flat foot, a balanced foot position, and I'm hinging and moving just fine. So obviously you can move from a balanced, flat foot position and hinge. I don't have to be on the ball of my foot to do this. But let me show you what does happen when you push someone onto the ball of their foot. First off, when I go to the ball of my foot, if I raise my heels off the ground, a couple things are going to happen here. The first thing is you're going to notice that you pick up tension in the feet and the ankles and the calf. Okay, when I destabilize the back of my arch, I have to have something compensate for that. And so I create tension in the lower leg and the ankles to help make up for that. I also find that my hips are going to push back. If I tip my weight forward and I do nothing, I will continue to tip forward until I fall forward. My brain recognizes this. And so what it does is it pushes my hips back just a little bit and makes my knees soft, and it brings my weight back so that I'm balanced on over my feet. So this is a compensation pattern that my body has created in response to being pushed into an unbalanced foot position. Now from here, you can see I can hinge. Now I'm not nearly as steady or as balanced as I was when I had my heels down. Again, I'm using a lot of energy to keep my heels off of the ground. The muscles that are making up for the back of the heel not being stabilized, those muscles are now metabolically active. So they're burning energy, you're creating stiffness down there that's going to be with you when you get off the bike. So there's definitely some side effects to having that tension. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily recognize this is happening because on the bikes, we have handlebars, and that makes it easy for us to balance and makes it easy for our body to fool us into thinking that we're in a balanced position when in fact we're not. So again, if I tip forward onto the balls of my feet and I let my hips slide back, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring something in front of me, okay? So I've got a mace here, but it could be handlebars. You could, try this yourself in front of a desk or something, or a counter that you can put your hands on top of. But what you're going to find is as soon as I put my hands on top of the mace, and I'm able to put a little pressure down, it makes me a little steadier. I feel a little more balanced. It takes some of the tension and the pressure off of my feet and my calves. But what's happened now is I've picked up tension in the upper body. Okay, now my upper body is creating a little downward pressure to help make up for that lack of balance. And so I've got a little extra tension in the upper body. I've got extra tension in the lower leg, the feet and the ankle and the calves. And what I've done is push myself into a compensation pattern. I'm not really moving in a balanced way. So even though this doesn't feel like extremely unbalanced, this is not as balanced as if I let my heels come down. God, my feet were starting to get really tired staying up there. If I'm here and doing my hinge, you can see this is much smoother, much easier for me to do. So this also is going to affect your ability to squat on the bike. So one of the things that you need to keep in mind is you need both the squatting and the hinging pattern. So if, you know, putting someone on the ball of their foot to make it easier for them to hinge, but it makes it harder for them to squat, again, you've kind of taken away one of their important movement patterns. When you stand up to pedal, you want to push your hips forward and use more of a squat pattern than stay back in your hinge and use a hinging pattern. And so, again, that's going to affect my ability. If I'm on my toes trying to squat, one is running a lot of pressure through my knees. You can feel the tension in my calves and feet. And again, it's just not as steady. I'm not going to be nearly as strong. I'm never going to be able to apply nearly as much pressure through my feet, which means I won't be able to lift as much weight and create as much force with my feet without the back of my heel being supported. So again, it's easy to look at these compensation patterns and think that they look like better movement. But if you don't understand what you're looking at, if you don't understand that everything has to start from a balanced foot position and then move around that, then it's easy to push someone into these unbalanced positions. And then what happens is from that point on, everything that they learn. So as soon as you go to the ball of the foot and you go into these compensation patterns, now trying to learn how to corner, trying to learn how to manual, trying to learn how to bunny hop and all of these things, all these other skills, you're going to be having to work around this unbalanced foot and these compensation patterns that your body creates as a result of it. So it actually will screw up the rest of your skills progression by being on the ball of your foot and putting yourself into this position where you've got this extra tension and you're using a compensation pattern, not authentic, balanced movement. And so, again, like I said, I hope that this makes sense. I know this is some kind of deeper level movement stuff, and you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, really looking at how the body moves best off of the bike, and then how do we apply that to the bike? Because again, at the end of the day, that's kind of the core question. Like, do the movement principles that govern how we move off of the bike also apply on the bike? And if you believe that they do, then, you know, a lot of these things become more self-evident. But if you don't, and for some reason you believe there's this mysterious other dimension that appears once you get on the bike, then, like I said, it's easy to start getting confused with some of these things and starting to steer people in the wrong direction with some of the advice that you're giving them on their foot position and how it affects their body to move on the bike. So, anyways, you know, learn to move better off the bike. It's my motto: move better off the bike to move better on the bike, and you know, focus on applying that better movement to the bike. And this is where knowing how to help people assess and fix movement off of the bike on some level is really important for skills coaches to know how to do. Because if you see someone who can't hinge and they're not able to get into their attack position, first thing you need to do is pull them off their bike and take a look at their hinge. If they can't hinge off the bike, you're not going to fix it on the bike, right? You have to fix it off of the bike. You have to have some sort of tools in your toolbox to help somebody understand how to move better and how it should feel, and then help them apply that feeling to the bike. But it all starts with how you move off of the bike and then applying that movement to the bike. So again, I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of things surrounding this this subject. This video is actually in conjunction with a podcast that I released recently, the Midfoot Position Manifesto, where I dive into all of the stuff, the science behind this stuff. I look at all the common arguments, including will other athletes push through the ball with their feet, and the pros do it, and just a lot of the other common arguments, and really just break down, you know, here's the science and the movement principles, and when you apply the science and the movement principles to these other examples that are given, you see how they're either taken out of context or they don't really tell you what you're being told that they tell you. So if you have more questions on this, I encourage you to check out that podcast. But I just wanted to shoot this video to visually show you how bad being on the ball of your foot really is for your body, how it affects your position. Again, it's a philosophy thing. For me, I want to seek balanced movement that is efficient and you know, allows me to create the most power and use the least amount of energy doing it possible. And so if putting someone into an unbalanced foot position where they're not able to apply as much power because they can't recruit their hips as effectively, where they're picking up extra tension in their feet and their calves and their ankles, where they're, you know, picking up extra tension in the upper body, you know, if these are positives for you somehow, then that's fine. But in my mind, they're not. And so that's why I steer people away from that and towards balanced, efficient, powerful movement. But anyways, so once again, this has been James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems. You can check me out there at bikejames.com. And also Pedaling Innovations, you can check me out there at pedalinginnovations.com, and there you can find out more about the Catalyst pedal, which is the first pedal that's designed to optimize this midfoot position. It makes a huge difference in how your foot's able to work and interface with your bike, and you know, a lot of great feedback on it from people who've tried it already. So again, check that out. But again, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, given you something to think about, and I will talk to you in the next one.